The Mayfair FT-102A. Want to know how I found the model number? Doesn't say anywhere on the case, but it's printed on the circuit board. This is that reel-to-reel that was in the video entitled Rim Drive. And what I plan to do is replace the battery compartment completely with the compartment that will use 2 AA's and modify it, because power is ran off each battery separately. And yes, I did say and I might also replace the amplifier, because this amplifier is just terrible. Quality on recording is the weakest of the weak. Not only is it the weakest of the weak, but also quality is very bad, and whenever you speak loudly, it actually distorts the amplifier during recording. So when you play it back, you have a recording that is distorted, no matter where the amplifier is set on playback. And of course, playback, it's not a strong amplifier. It only uses 3 transistors, no push-pull. I think the speaker is just driven by 1 transistor. But here's an inside shot of how it is before. I already unscrewed the battery compartment. I mean, look at the corrosion. It's ridiculous. Oh, how do we do that? Luckily the amplifier is done in a very simple way. Turn that light on. The input goes there. The volume pot goes there. Speaker goes there. Power comes in there. This probably uses positive ground, as most of the older amplifiers did. These tape recorders, they always use positive ground. These vintage ones. You can see already I put a new capacitor on there. It did very, 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 very little to improve. The capacitor that was there was not very leaky. It didn't make much difference. But, yeah. Here's the other side. One of the reel tables has taken off. You can see the brake. Put it in play and it moves up. You can see over there the motor is actually, whenever it's put to rewind mode, the wheel spindle here actually moves to the motor shaft, and the larger part of the motor shaft. Which my Mayfair FT-303 does the same. Whenever it's switched to rewind, it pushes it to the motor shaft. So there's similarity in design between the 2 Mayfair recorders. And the take-up reel is driven by an idler from the small motor shaft. Similar to this Mayfair, the take-up reel is also driven from an idler and play. But in this case, it's friction clutch. And there's a capstan drive there. My soldering iron's heating up. I just smelled it. The speaker grill looks like the letter K, but actually it goes over that way too, as you can see under the reel table. It uses a single head. The erase head is a permanent magnet. Just shot of the other side of the Here's a shot of the other side of the amplifier. Does not use color-coded resistors. The resistors are those gray components, like that, with the value marked on them. Commonly seen in these old 1960s portable tape recorders. Also, I think in some of the non-portables have it too. My TEC A1500W has resistors like that as well. That won't work. That's in the way. I'm stupid. I've replaced all 3 transistors except one of them is there, wired in parallel with the replacement transistor. It seemed to improve the amplifier power a little bit. Here we have a signal injector. Here's the output transistor. Okay. Here is the second amplifier transistor. Quietest sound you ever heard in your life. Okay. Dang it, why? Didn't do that before. Here's the input. Never heard a more quieter sound ever in my entire life. Disable that parallel transistor part. Now it's actually audible. But the amplification here still doesn't seem to do anything. Hardly. That I don't get. The transistor seems to amplify nothing at all. That sound. Okay? It's exactly the same. That's the input. It makes no sense whatsoever. No amplification. That was the original thing did too. I did. Now I added another one of the old transistors where this was connected, where base and collector are connected along with this one's base and collector. And now we actually get amplification on this transistor. It might have to do with the fact that this used germanium transistors and I replaced them with silicons, and their characteristics are a little bit different. I think it's like the internal resistance, from what I remember. Now we have amplification. We go to the output stage here. That much amplification at the base. Go to the base of the second transistor. A lot of amplification. Now go to the base of the first transistor, the input transistor. A whole lot of amplification with all 3 transistors. Now the amplifier should work well. In conclusion, this ends up being a technically 5 transistor amplifier, but only 3 actual amplifying transistors. The other 2 germaniums aid the transistors in amplification, probably because the circuit design was originally intended for use with germanium transistors. I put a screw to hold the amplifier back on. I'm not going to bother with the other screw. It's on there fine. It's on there good enough. And I'll put the machine back together and see what we get. And the optimism is zapped away at once. Either the amplifier passes a signal from the signal injector with no problem. The actual sound of the amplification is incredibly distorted. And not only that, but also it won't record anything. I will try taking off the reinforcing germanium transistors. If that doesn't fix it, then I'll resort to installing fresh, never been used, but old germanium transistors. My hand, of course. First I'll go with 1 and see if it improves. I replaced the transistors with RCA 2N2614 transistors. The good side is the amplifier is amplifying. although I haven't tested it with the tape yet. The bad side is there is more static than static has ever had before. That is ridiculous. So although it's amplifying, the noise is just insane. It's ridiculous. Okay, so I've gone through several RCA transistors out of that batch. And these two were super noisy. This one was a little bit noisy. Finally, I found one that isn't badly noisy, so we finally got a good amp. Now, here's the difference. Here we got our signal injector. Here's our output transistor, and make sure our camera's at the right place. Here's our output transistor. Okay? And here's our second transistor. And now here's the input for the first transistor that's in the amplifier. That's loud. Here the amp is in place with the now found good RCA and not the noisy RCA transistors installed, and it's ready to be put back together.